10 Genius Ways Sigmas Outsmart and Confuse Their Enemies. Welcome to today's video. In this session, we're going to dive into the world of Sigmas, those fascinating individuals who have a unique way of handling challenges and confounding their enemies. Sigmas are not like everyone else. They don't follow the crowd, and they certainly don't let others dictate their actions. Their behavior can leave people guessing, and in this video, we'll break down the 10 genius ways Sigmas outsmart and confuse their enemies. Let's get started with the first point. Number 1. Master of silence. Sigmas have a special skill that most people don't understand: silence. While others may rush to speak or react when faced with a problem, Sigmas know that silence is a powerful tool. When things get tense, when people try to provoke them or challenge their ideas, they don't rush to say anything. Instead, they stay calm and quiet. This silence leaves their enemies in the dark, unsure of what the Sigma is thinking or planning. For someone trying to figure out what a Sigma is up to, this silence is frustrating. When no words are spoken, it's hard to predict what they will do next. They don't need to speak to make a point, they let their silence speak for them. This can be very confusing for those who are used to quick answers or reactions. The longer they stay silent, the more unsure their enemies become. Are they planning something? Are they just ignoring the situation? This keeps the enemies off balance and constantly guessing. The power of silence is that it creates confusion and uncertainty in others. While many people feel the need to speak or respond immediately when something happens, the Sigma doesn't rush to fill every moment with words. Instead, they stay quiet, which often makes others feel uneasy because they can't figure out what the Sigma is thinking. This silence forces their enemies to wonder, what are they planning? Are they ignoring me? Or is there something more going on? The Sigma doesn't feel the pressure to respond right away because they know the value of taking their time. This quietness gives them the space to observe what's happening around them, think carefully, and plan their next move without anyone rushing them. By staying silent, Sigmas don't give away their thoughts or intentions, leaving others to guess what's going on in their minds. This creates a lot of confusion and uncertainty for their enemies, who start second-guessing everything they do. Instead of reacting to a situation immediately like others might, Sigmas take the time to reflect and carefully decide on their actions. This approach makes it harder for anyone to predict their next step. This quiet time of reflection naturally leads to the next point. Sigmas confuse their enemies with their unpredictable behavior. Number 2. Unpredictable behavior. Sigmas are experts at throwing others off by acting unpredictably. They are not like other people who follow the same patterns over and over. While most individuals might react in a certain way based on their past actions, Sigmas make sure to mix things up. They do things that others don't expect, which leaves everyone around them constantly guessing. It's like trying to predict the weather in a place where the forecast always changes. If someone thinks they have the Sigma figured out, they will quickly be proven wrong. Sigmas don't follow any rules when it comes to how they act. One day they might be quiet and reserved, and the next, they might act completely different. This unpredictability is like a game of chess where no one knows what move the other person is going to make. It's difficult to plan against someone whose next step is always uncertain. Enemies get confused because they can't anticipate what the Sigma will do. And this, in turn, puts the Sigma in control. People often think that if they can figure someone out, they can control them or defeat them. But Sigmas refuse to be put into any box. They thrive on surprising others and keeping everyone around them in a constant state of confusion. And that's exactly what their enemies can't stand, being left in the dark and not knowing what to expect. Number 3. Nonchalant confidence. One thing that stands out about Sigmas is their unwavering confidence. But here's the twist. They don't get their confidence from seeking approval from others. Unlike many people who need to be told they're doing well or seek validation from their friends or colleagues, Sigmas find confidence from within. It's a quiet, calm confidence that doesn't need to be announced to the world. They don't boast or show off, they simply know what they are capable of. This nonchalant confidence can be incredibly confusing for those who try to challenge the Sigma. When someone attacks or questions a Sigma's actions, they don't react with anger or defensiveness. Instead, they stand firm, without changing their attitude. This behavior is difficult for others to deal with because they can't figure out what makes the sigma so sure of themselves. The enemy might think, why aren't they upset? Why don't they care? And that's exactly what the sigma wants. Their enemies become uncertain and hesitant. When people face the sigma's calm, unshaken confidence, it often leads to doubt and confusion. How can someone be so unaffected by criticism or challenge? It leaves enemies frustrated and unsure of how to break through the sigma's strong sense of self. This quiet strength is something that truly sets sigmas apart and keeps their enemies on edge. Number 4. Strategic observation. Sigmas aren't the type to jump into a situation without thinking. In fact, one of their greatest skills is taking a step back and observing everything around them before making any moves. They don't rush to action. Instead, they patiently watch, listen, and analyze. By observing carefully, sigmas can pick up on details that most people miss. They notice patterns in behavior, the small things that reveal what people are really thinking and planning. This strategic observation is what gives sigmas the advantage over others. While others are busy making rash decisions or reacting impulsively, sigmas are gathering information. They pay attention to how people speak, what they do, and even how they feel. This allows the sigma to understand not only the situation at hand but also the weaknesses and motivations of their enemies. When it's finally time to act, the sigma is already several steps ahead. Enemies find it really difficult to compete with someone who has gathered so much information. Sigmas spend time observing everything carefully, so when it's time to make a decision, they already know a lot about the situation and the people involved. They use this knowledge to think ahead and predict how things will unfold. This gives them a big advantage, because while their enemies might be rushing to make decisions without taking the time to think things through, the sigma is already a few steps ahead. Because sigmas are always observing, they have the ability to stay calm and make their decisions based on facts, not just on emotions or quick reactions. They take their time to think and plan their next move carefully. This strategic way of thinking helps them stay in control of the situation. On the other hand, their enemies may get nervous, rush into decisions, or make mistakes because they don't have the same amount of information. As a result, sigmas can plan their moves with precision and confidence. This leaves their enemies confused, uncertain about what the sigma is going to do next, and often out of sync with the situation. The enemies can't predict what will happen, and that puts the sigma in a position of strength. Number 5. Emotional detachment. Sigmas have a remarkable ability to detach from their emotions. While most people allow their feelings to influence their actions, sigmas remain level-headed and calm, no matter what happens. This emotional detachment is a powerful tool because it keeps them from getting swept up in the chaos of a situation. If someone insults them or challenges their ideas, they don't let it affect their thoughts or behavior. This is incredibly confusing for enemies. When others try to provoke or push the sigma, they're met with a calm demeanor. They can't figure out why the sigma isn't getting upset or angry like most people would. This ability to remain emotionally detached allows sigmas to think clearly and make decisions that aren't clouded by feelings. It's like playing a game of chess, where the sigma keeps their cool while their enemies get frustrated and emotional. For enemies who usually depend on emotional reactions to control a situation, the sigma's ability to stay emotionally detached becomes a real puzzle. Most people, when they are challenged or insulted, will show some kind of emotional response: anger, frustration, sadness, or even fear. These emotions are often the tools that enemies use to try to control or upset others. However, the sigma doesn't react like most people. They stay calm and collected, no matter what is thrown their way. This lack of emotional response can be really confusing for the enemy. They are used to seeing others get upset or defensive, and that's usually when they feel they've won or gained control of the situation. But with a sigma, it's different. Since they don't react emotionally, it becomes very difficult for their enemies to find any weaknesses to exploit. The enemy can't figure out how to push the sigma's buttons because there are no visible signs of anger or frustration. This emotional detachment leaves the enemy feeling stuck and unsure of how to approach the sigma. Every time they try to challenge the sigma, they get the same calm response, which makes them feel confused and even more uncertain about how to proceed. They might try various tactics to provoke an emotional reaction, but nothing seems to work, and this leaves them frustrated and completely unsure of how to take control of the situation. Number 6. Subtle manipulation. Sigmas have a special talent for influencing others in a very subtle way. Unlike people who are obvious in their attempts to manipulate, Sigmas do so quietly and almost imperceptibly. They don't use force or pressure. Instead, they gently guide people toward their desired outcome. It's like they have an invisible hand, nudging things in the direction they want without anyone noticing. This subtle manipulation works because the Sigma doesn't come across as controlling or aggressive. They use charm, wit, and persuasion in a way that feels natural to others. The people around them don't even realize they're being influenced. By the time they realize what's happening, it's already too late. The Sigma has successfully led them where they wanted them to go. And their enemies are left wondering how they got caught up in the Sigma's plan. The genius of this manipulation is that it doesn't require force. It's all about creating a situation where others believe they're making their own decisions, when in reality, they're being guided by the Sigma's subtle influence. This confusion keeps enemies from understanding how they were outsmarted in the first place. Number 7. Inability to be rattled. When things get heated or stressful, most people can be easily rattled. They might get angry, flustered, or nervous, but not the Sigma. Sigmas have a unique ability to stay calm, no matter what. Whether someone insults them, challenges their ideas, or tries to provoke them, they never lose their cool. They remain steady and unfazed, no matter the circumstances. This ability to remain unshaken in any situation makes it difficult for enemies to get the Sigma to react. They might try to get a rise out of them, but the Sigma won't budge. This causes confusion and frustration because enemies expect a reaction, but they never get one. The Sigma's calmness is like a shield, protecting them from emotional attacks and leaving their enemies uncertain of how to handle them. When someone is unable to be rattled, it forces their enemies to rethink their approach. They can't win by making the Sigma angry or upset because that's just not possible. This puts the Sigma in control of the situation and leaves their enemies struggling to find a way to break through. Number 8. Clever use of humor. Sigmas have a clever way of using humor to disarm their enemies. This isn't about telling jokes or trying to make people laugh, but using wit to change the direction of a conversation or situation. When things are tense or difficult, Sigmas can insert a little humor to shift the mood. This throws off their enemies, who may be expecting a serious or heated response. The power of this humor is that it breaks the tension and catches others off guard. Instead of reacting with anger or frustration, the Sigma uses humor to keep things light. This confuses their enemies because they expect a more serious response, but instead, they get something unexpected. It's like a pressure valve releasing, and suddenly, the tension is gone. This clever use of humor allows the Sigma to maintain control while making it hard for others to figure out what they're really thinking. Humor is a subtle but powerful way for Sigmas to outsmart their enemies. It confuses them, disarms them, and keeps them from getting the upper hand. It's just another way Sigmas remain unpredictable and keep others on edge. Number 9. The power of dismissal. Sigmas know that not everything deserves attention. They don't waste time engaging in petty arguments or responding to distractions. When something or someone doesn't matter, the Sigma simply ignores it. They don't get caught up in small issues or things that don't serve their greater goals. This power of dismissal confuses their enemies, who are often waiting for a reaction. When Sigmas dismiss things with a wave of their hand, their enemies are left wondering why they aren't taking things seriously. The Sigma doesn't give energy to things that don't matter, and this makes their opponents feel insignificant. They can't understand why the Sigma isn't bothered or upset, and that's the brilliance of the tactic. It keeps the focus on what truly matters and leaves enemies feeling irrelevant. By refusing to engage with distractions, Sigmas maintain control of the situation. Their enemies are left wondering if they are even important enough to be acknowledged. And this uncertainty is what confuses and frustrates their opponents. Number 10. The art of the quiet comeback. Sigmas don't usually respond aggressively when challenged or criticized. Instead, they make a quiet comeback, one that is so clever and understated that it catches their enemies off guard. There's no loud argument, no shouting. They simply make their point in a calm, collected way that forces their enemies to reconsider their actions. This quiet comeback is brilliant because it's not about winning through force or anger. Instead, the Sigma uses intelligence and composure to prove their point. It's a subtle power move that leaves enemies feeling unsure of how to respond. They might try to push the Sigma harder, but the calm and collected response always leaves them feeling defeated. The quiet comeback is a perfect example of the Sigma's ability to control situations without ever having to raise their voice or get angry. It's a masterclass in subtlety that leaves enemies confused and unable to fight back. Sigmas have a unique ability to outsmart and confuse their enemies, and it all comes down to their strategic and mysterious ways of handling challenges. From their mastery of silence to their unpredictable behavior, Sigmas leave a trail of confusion for those who try to challenge them. They remain calm, composed, and always a step ahead, making it nearly impossible for their enemies to keep up. Their intelligence, emotional detachment, and clever tactics create an aura of mystery, ensuring that their enemies never quite know what to expect. In the end, Sigmas always stay one step ahead, leaving others in the dark, wondering how they were outsmarted.
And do share with your friends so we may continue to create them. To see more videos like this, subscribe and don't forget to turn on the notification bell. Additionally, make sure to check out our other videos. Thank you for watching.